Well, welcome to A Trekzone Conversation. Matt Miller with you at Trekzone HQ. I'm so excited for today's guest. It's been a month in the making. Noah Averbach-Katz, Rin from Discovery, but so much more from Discovery is coming up on today's show.
On Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and YouTube for over 550 episodes. This is A Trekzone Conversation.
Noah, thanks for a little bit of your time, my friend, today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, well, I am so happy to be here. Always get excited to talk Trek or anything else that you want to talk about. Happy to be here today.
It has been incredible to get to know. It's funny with my research and with Memory Alpha and IMDb, you sort of get to know the cast of shows and dive into their lives. It's funny how much information is actually out there, but there's a bit of a Trek pedigree for you. Lifelong Trek fan, I believe, with a mum who was a Trekkie.
This is true. Yes, my mom sort of. Was made it very clear that I had no choice in whether or not I was going to become a Trekkie. And so we sort of grew up watching a little bit of Voyager together. And then I really became my full Trek self with Enterprise, watching Enterprise week to week. Would go to Star Trek conventions, and I've sort of done the gambit of the big, cons in Pasadena and Chicago to the small basement of a Marriott in Sacramento, with just a couple of stands up. So I've really done it all. And then to kind of get to go to the next level was just beyond a dream come true for me and for my mom too.
Did you ever think that you would go from walking past the signing table to sitting at the signing table with people coming to you?
Never. In fact, I still can't believe it. I've been talking with some people about doing conventions and stuff, and I'm still I just give away the autographs for free. Nobody's going to actually want this, you know what I mean? Or people, what's going to be so funny is that people are going to be like, who are you? Out of costume. It's not like I look like, Rin without the makeup on. So I feel like, and like a meet and greet or something, I'm going to be standing there with my, cocktail, just sort of shaking it, nodding to myself in the corners. Everyone's like, who is that guy? I have no idea who that is. So it definitely feels very surreal to me still.
Well, of course, you are the husband of Mary Wiseman. So you married into, or you had Discovery in the family, as it were,
yes,
before you even contemplated being in front of the camera. So how's that as a Trekkie to marry an actress that then gets the one of the lead roles on the new Star Trek show since we grew up, because we're around the same age. So we grew up on Enterprise, had nothing for 12 years. And then Mary just comes home and just goes, oh, by the way, Noah, I'm going to be Ensign Tilly on Discovery.
Well, yeah, it's pretty great. And funny, that's sort of how it happened. She had auditioned and just sort of sent in a taped audition, very, very low key, not we're talking to producers or whatever. And I was out at dinner with my dad and with my cousin, and she sat down next to me and was like, oh, I got Star Trek. And I was like, what? I don't really understand what you're saying to me. But it's been amazing, because I, for the past, 2 years of shooting, have got to just kind of have an all access behind the scenes pass. I could show up on set whenever I wanted, walk around. I knew the cast, I knew the crew. So, very quickly, as I was sort of showing everybody on set the pictures of me in a uniform when I was 14, they were like, oh yeah, we like you, you're in. So I sort of could walk around the set and do whatever I wanted. And, so much of the cast were at our wedding. So we have a really, really close relationship with everybody, which is amazing. So I was really just living that, fan dream of just being on set, watching it happen, getting to know the cast, knowing what they're like when the cameras are off. It was just so much fun. And then getting to be on the show just sort of takes it to a whole new level, which I never really even considered for myself, really. It was like, sure, I'd obviously love to do it, but I would think it, would be like, oh, we need a background guy. Let's like put Noah in the thing and he can like walk in the background. So to actually like get to really be a part of the story was incredible.
Now, as I understand it, you helped Mary prepare for her role as Tilly.
Yeah, it's very funny because there's two versions of this story. There's Mary's version and there's my version, which was, so she did this audition. She's like, oh, I'm auditioning for Star Trek. Well, let me like read the sides with you. So I read them with her. It was really fun, but that was whatever. And then maybe like 2 weeks later, they were like, hey, we need a slate, which is essentially just like a full body scan so they can see how tall you are. And she came in to do this slate. I'd set up our little camera, and she was sort of wearing like a loose, very beautiful, but like kind of flowery, summery dress. And in my telling of the story, I was like, sweetie, you look amazing. I would never, ever do this, but I just think for like this one time, I'm just going to say this. This will be the only time I ever say it, but like, I think maybe you should change into something a little bit more squared shoulders, a little bit more military, just as somebody who knows Star Trek, that might just be what they're looking for. In Mary's telling, she walked in wearing the dress and I said, absolutely not. You need to change immediately. Go put on something with shoulder pads, get out of here and come back with something better. So we have
you call that an audition for Star Trek? Rubbish.
Exactly. So we have two different versions of that story. But that I like to think that was my sort of contributing factor on her getting Star Trek was like, getting to see her in the sort of military captain ensign uniform of what they could hope for. So that was my contribution to her audition.
Now, speaking of auditions, I believe that you auditioned for Spock in season 2, but
yeah,
it wasn't Spock. It was a secret audition, obviously, codename Tom, but based on everything, you figured out that it was a Vulcan because you're a nerd.
Right. Well, it was funny because it was supposed to be Tom the Andorian, and I was reading and I was like, no way. This is not only is this not an Andorian, this is a Vulcan. And not only is this a Vulcan, I know this is Spock. Like I just can totally tell, like I totally had it. And it was so much fun to get to audition for it. It was a very, very difficult audition side. It was two sides. It was early on when they meet Spock and he's kind of explaining to Michael, where he's at. And then the second side was him in that cave with all like the symbols on the wall, sort of talking about Alice in Wonderland. And they were very difficult sides. And I was like doing them and just like sort of felt so at home, less so in like the Vulcan-ness of it, but more in the Star Trek of it. It was just like knowing that genre so well, really allowed me to just like be able to, approach it. If it was another series, I would be like, this guy's like totally lost his mind and he's talking about Alice in Wonderland. I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to do with this. And, that I think the audition went really well, and Alex and Michelle saw that and we're like, oh, we need to put this guy on our radar for this, because and of course, like Ethan, I'm so glad Ethan's playing that part. I'm so glad I'm not playing that part. Just in the off time, like between shooting and this coming out, I was like so racked with nervous energy about, just like, was I Andorian enough? I can't imagine what I would have been feeling if I was worried about being Spock enough. I probably would have just melted into a puddle. And Ethan just does such an incredible job. And getting to see him work on set was really, really amazing. That was a really special time that I got to have as well. He just like has the sort of stillness, the voice, the gravitas. So I just think he just does such a fantastic job, and I'm so glad it's him. so glad it's not me, because that would just have been a nervous breakdown waiting to happen. But I knew Alex, and he sort of knew of my Star Trek fandom, and so I did that, and sort of they were like, yeah, got really, really positive feedback from that audition. And then from there, they just sort of sent this other thing along to me. I was actually in Toronto at the time, and I flew back to New York to audition for it. And again, it was one of these things where it was like, I knew, in the original sides for Rin, I think his name was Micah. I think they changed it to Micah, and they were talking a lot about Cardassians or something. Again, there was just sort of dummy sides, but for somebody else who might not have been familiar with the world, I can imagine it being very difficult to be like, wait, the Cardassians are sending this to here and that. But for me, it was almost like I could instantly, visualize myself on Deep Space Nine in one of those like burnt orange corridors with that, really intense lighting, and making sure nobody sort of clanks down that sort of metal hallway. So it just felt so natural to do it. And I think the auditions went well. And then, next thing I knew, I was kind of getting a head cast made so that I could get put in prosthetics.
Did it all sort of happen really, really quickly for you? Like, it just sped up. Being a Trekkie, everything just sort of happened in quick succession, and then before you know it, it's all done.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. Like, I don't really remember when I got the part. Like, I don't remember having like a moment of excitement, and I don't remember like how long between getting the part and actually like arriving on set and starting to actually work. But I do, I was like, I made a conscious effort to not let this, I knew that this moment would sort of be just a moment. You know what I mean? I knew that it wasn't going to last forever, even, regardless of how long I was on the show for, because I didn't know when I started out. But I had a sense that it would be limited. It wasn't going to go on forever. It's probably going to be a shorter arc. And I really made a conscious effort to try and be as present as I could, to try and, just soak as much in, to try and remember as much as I could, to kind of not let it just pass me by, to not sort of approach it as just like another acting job, or just like focus on just doing your best job and getting in there and getting out. I just really tried to be as present as I could. And it really actually made it feel like it was way longer than it was. It was just 2 weeks here, another 2 weeks, and then a week and a half, and it was over. But for me, it's sort of because I was just so focused on trying to take everything in, trying to appreciate, all the little details of the set and the costumes and the makeup and the writing and everything. It just felt like it was so much longer than it actually was, which is just a really wonderful feeling.
Now, I think we're safely enough away from the finale of Discovery. It's been about a month now since Discovery wrapped on air, as it were. So I think we can say that Rin met an unfortunate demise.
He's dead.
He's dead.
He's dead.
Disintegrated.
I've been
not coming back
for it for a year. Like I've had a whole year to process his death, so I'm very much ready to speak about it.
It was a bit of a. I will admit, it was a bit of a shock in the Trekzone household because it just happened. I think that's the like we get so numb a little bit to shows going, oh, they're not going to kill him off. Something's just going to happen, and then boom, it just happened. Yeah. So that was incredible. That was, dare I say, really nice to see. It's good when the mold sort of gets broken a little bit and it does actually happen, and there's no reset button. There's no chance of that character coming back. But having said that, it's not unprecedented in Star Trek for actors to return in different roles. Jeffrey Combs doing so much, Vaughn Armstrong doing so much as well, Ken Mitchell as well in Star Trek in Discovery coming back.
Yes.
No, I think you've got to hang around the corridors and the sets a little bit longer, and eventually they might just go, we need a human extra and chuck you in a uniform.
I will, of course, return to anything they would have me do. There's so much to be done, especially having done prosthetics. It's like, oh, well, we can bring somebody back who can do these prosthetics again. So yeah, obviously I would absolutely come back, and was also so thrilled with the time that I did have, in a 13 episode season, to get to do 3 and have a kind of full arc is just amazing. To get to do 2 episodes where Jonathan Frakes is directing is amazing. So, and to get to do scenes with my wife, there were just so many different things that I got to do, different actors who I got to work with, different parts of Star Trek that I got to participate in, that only means something to a fan. So even if I never come back, which I absolutely would love to do, I think there was just so much that I got to do that I feel really content and happy with, Rin's sort of arc. And even with his death, I think it was pivotal. In my opinion, it was sort of pivotal of turning Osira from somebody who is trying to like do this negotiation to somebody, she can't be trusted. She's sort of explosive. She's violent. She's, obviously trying to get some edge on the Federation. And there's also something really nice about like this sort of air of mystery around Rin. I feel like in Star Trek in general, one of the great things is so much is explained. You know so much about every single character, and so when there are characters where you're like, man, I wish I knew more about him. What was he doing before he got to that planet? What was his relationship with the Emerald Chain and the Uprising and Osira? What could have been? What was his relationship with Book? Where could that have gone? I feel like that sense of mystery is rare in Star Trek. And so I kind of like it, as opposed to being like, oh, well, we know everything about this guy. Now he's just standing around the background. I think there's something really cool about going out a little earlier as opposed to a little later.
Better to leave the audience wanting more.
Exactly.
Fantastic. No, well, it has been fun to chat with you. It's been fun to, in the build-up as well, chatting with you in some messages. Looking forward to staying in touch if we can, and just seeing
absolutely
where this journey goes, especially with Mary continuing on, Tilly continuing on. Hopefully in season 4, she's even bigger and larger than life as Ensign Tilly. She's absolutely fantastic. Now, from your perspective as well, of course, Rin, an absolutely fantastic character to come in, a supporting character, as you say, that we didn't learn too much about, left us wanting that little bit more. Fantastic work on Discovery, my friend, and life's complete for you now. You can just retire and live off the convention circuit.
I don't even know what I'm supposed to do now. It sort of is like I peaked way too early. I could just like buy a headstone and start digging a grave because I'm pretty much good to go at this point. I need a new career because there's nothing left for me to do.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I was going to say that there's a whole heap of other Star Trek series out there that Alex is helming. So maybe
that's true.
Keep walking around the sets, keep getting into his ear and going, oh, wouldn't it be really good if there was an Andorian over here? Or what about this one over here? So create the work for yourself.
I think so. I think I'm going to push for him to make, I'm really tall. So I think my next thing will be 2 Ferengis stacked on top of each other in a trench coat. That's my next big move.
I love it. Noah, thanks for a little bit of your time today. Thanks for being in and having a Trekzone conversation. And we'll catch you again soon.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.